Hey guys, welcome to another MapleStory 2 guide, and today we're going to be making a video on bonus attributes. Bonus attributes are essentially the MS2 equivalent of hidden potential, the dreaded, just absolutely post-traumatic stress disorder inducing system from MapleStory 1. No, it's actually not that bad. This one's a bit more straightforward, and you and your wallet don't need to go into spousal abuse counseling sessions, okay? Take my word for it. Bonus attributes are extra stats that come with your equipment, and are usually more important than the equip's own base stats. Almost all items come with random bonus attributes, some come with fixed attributes, and some come with no attributes. Usually as a means to balance out a powerful passive stat that they come with. I'll get more into that later, but for now let's get right into the video. First, I want to refresh you guys on the different equipment tiers in MapleStory 2. Throughout your adventure, you'll run into various equips that come in different highlights or shades of colors. There are a total of 6 equipment tiers in the game. At the time this video is released, there are only 4 available: normal, rare, exceptional, and epic. But the next 2 tiers are legendary and descendant. Normal equips are uncolored, rare equips are green colored, exceptional equips are blue colored, epic equips are purple colored, legendary equips are yellow/orange colored, and we don't know what color Ascended will be, I don't think, but that's what we have so far. Legendary gear is going to be coming out starting the Chaos Rising update. These equipment tiers aren't as relevant to bonus attributes as they are to the base stat of equips. Obviously, higher tiered equips will have better stats and such, but from what I gather so far, the equipment tier will determine how many bonus stats are also on an item. For instance, if you look at normal equips, they don't have bonus stats on them. Rare equips have only 1 bonus attribute on them, and can't get any more than that. But exceptional and epic gear have 2 bonus attributes on them. Now, whether legendary and ascended gear will have 3 lines of bonus stats or not is entirely in the dark, but there might be reason to believe that the higher tiered your items are, not only the more base stats they have, but also the more attributes they can each carry. But do not quote me on that, we're about to find out in actually a couple days whether or not legendary gear will have 3 bonus attributes, but I hope they do. I mentioned earlier that some equips come with random bonus attributes, others with fixed bonus attributes, and some with none. The ones with random attributes are often common drops, which are everyday drops you'll find just by doing dungeons or grinding experience. Items with fixed attributes tend to be boss drops, such as Balrog's wings, which always have piercing and magic damage, but with varying amounts of both, or Shu and Boo Boo's hat, which always has max HP and stun duration reduction. This is actually a pretty neat mechanic because if an item has fixed attributes, even if it might be weaker than some equips through sheer base stats, if the bonus attributes are good, it can serve as a nice contender. Plus that means it can fit towards specific niches and classes like the Balrog wings being great for melee classes. Items that don't have bonus attributes apart from normal tiered equipment are usually high level boss drops like Kandura's pendant from Beyond Link Triss or Varikan's horns and wings from Lubellisk. And the main reason for this is to balance out the item itself. Most of these items come with better base stats and occasionally a strong passive stat, such as Varikan's horns having a small chance to boost your physical and magic damage by a pretty significant amount. Alright, so let's get into the list of actual bonus attributes that equipment can have, and there's a lot, so instead of manually saying each one individually, I'm just going to show you guys a screenshot on the screen right now of all the possible bonus attributes you can get. As you can see, there are quite a bit. The bonus attributes are divided into 2 categories with 2 subcategories in said categories: flat increase and percentage increase. Flat increasing stats are often stats with basic number calculations like strength, dexterity, intelligence, and luck. There are some percentage numbers in here like movement speed, attack speed, and critical rate, but the attributes you pick up will increase said stat by a flat amount instead of a percentage, along with the interactions of that stat. On the right hand side, you have percentage increases, which are all based on portional values such as piercing, physical piercing, and magic piercing. The calculations and interactions involving the stat will be determined in the formulas as a percentage. For example, defense and physical resistance reduces attack damage by a flat amount, while melee and range damage reduction will reduce damage by a percentage amount post-mitigation. Needless to say, there's a lot of math involved, but that's not necessarily that important. So since there are a lot of bonus attributes that you can get on your equipment, for your leisure I took the liberty of crossing out all the stats that you will almost never need, and the ones still here are the ones that are considered good. So why are these important? Bonus attributes are very important for giving your character the extra oomph that they need. MS2 has a gear score mechanic, but gear score does not fully calculate a player's strength, since bonus attributes don't count to it at all. As I said earlier in a previous video, bonus attributes do not raise the gear score of your item. If you take 2 members of the same class with equal gear score and even similar attack strength, you can see a clear difference in their performance by bonus attributes alone. Someone with 10% more piercing or boss damage will do noticeably more damage than someone without. But that's basic numbers in MMOs. Let's get into what stats you want to go into. Even after I narrow down which attributes are not completely useless, there are some that are universally important no matter what class you're playing. Piercing, physical or magic piercing, obviously it depends on if you're playing a physical damage dealing class or a magic damage dealing class. Boss damage, accuracy, melee or range damage, total damage, skill cooldown, attack speed, and for some classes whatever kind of elemental damage you deal, though it's not nearly as pivotal as the ones before it. Each piece of equipment has their own list for which attributes they can get, but for the sake of not overwhelming a single video, I'll talk more about that later when I make an actual equipment guide. Piercing ignores a percentage of your target's total defense. Physical and magic piercing ignore a percentage of your target's physical and magic resistance respectively. Boss damage grants you a % increase in total damage dealt to boss monsters. I don't know if elite monsters count in the PvP zones, but if it does, then please let me know. Accuracy factors in the target's evasion and calculates your chances of hitting the target. Melee or range damage bonus increases the total damage of attacks that are either close quarters or long distance. It's basically conditional damage increase. Total damage, on the other hand, is just a total increase in the amount of damage you will do to the target before mitigation, in a general sense. Skill cooldown reduces the cooldown timer of your abilities, attack speed affects how fast your attack animations come out, and there are even things like elemental damage bonus, which is even more conditional damage if your attack does a certain elemental attack. Everything else you really don't need to worry about. Well, that's not correct actually. You do want to have an idea for what each stat does, even the ones I crossed out, and when you'll need more of it or not. But overall, these are probably the most important bonus attributes for you to make note of. There's also a way you can change the bonus attributes of an item. By clicking the Change Attributes button in your inventory, you're allowed to reroll an equipment's bonus stats in exchange for having certain items, and you can even lock a certain attribute that you don't want changed if you have the right item for it. Also, some items can do this function as well, such as reroll scrolls. It's kind of a simple thing to understand, so I won't really go too much into it, but fortunately, you don't need to buy red or black cubes like you did in MapleStory 1. You know, I actually wonder how many red and black cubes the entire MapleStory 1 community has purchased over the past, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that they've been out. If Nexon releases it, I really want to know. A lot of the bonus attributes in this game are just conditional variants of other attributes. For instance, we have melee and range damage reduction, which ignores a percentage of the damage you'll take post-mitigation, but then we have fire, ice, electric, etc. damage reduction, which ignores a percentage of the fire, ice, electric damage that you'll take post-mitigation. Or total damage bonus is just an overall damage increase. Melee and range damage is conditional to the skill's attack range, and then elemental damage bonus is conditional to the skill's element if it has one. You might think that's bad design and uncreative, but I actually like that Nexon did it this way for MapleStory 2. Having one stat serve as the be-all end-all goal often makes progression in video games linear and not so interesting. It gets pretty boring very quickly. That's why in games like Pokemon, while the majority of your stats will come from leveling your Pokemon, there are still things like individual values, effort values, or even the nature of your Pokemon, so you still have more to do besides level it up. And players who go the extra mile will be rewarded for their efforts even if it's not nearly as important as just leveling up a Pokemon. MapleStory 2 caps out very powerful attributes like piercing and total damage at low amounts, but more conditional attributes such as range and melee damage increase have higher caps per equipment since they don't have as many all-purpose applications. This turns equipment progression in MS2 into a very well-rounded min-maxing endeavor, at least from my perspective. I do like the fact that they did it this way because that means you have to consider more than just like one stat. In MapleStory 1, there was only like boss damage and total damage and whatnot, but in MapleStory 2, there's elemental damage, range damage, and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that basically wraps it up for this video. Bonus attributes are important to know for players who do want to reach endgame levels, and while it looks complicated at first, eventually you will get an idea as to which stats are important or not. When in doubt, always practice due diligence and study up on it. If you'd like more information on the subject, there will be links to resources in the video description, and of course, if I left anything of importance out, you're more than welcome to let me know in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care.